Chuck Schumer and the MS-13 lover, Nancy Pelosi. They're more interested in taking care of criminals than they are in taking care of you.
Why do the Democrats not believe in the integrity of our borders, our laws, and protecting the American people?
All signs point to a summit.
The North Koreans, now they're up against the president who's saying, look, we're going to keep all the sanctions on until we can verify.
One of the nation's biggest drug makers, Purdue Pharma, makers of OxyContin, knew its opioids were being widely abused.
It's not just that they knew about it and didn't do anything. They knew about it and still aggressively marketed it as a not addictive drug.
Tensions easing on the Gaza Strip following days of airstrikes.
For 24 hours, though, we had more than 100 rockets being fired. You can see some of the damage from a rocket that landed overnight here.
We're not making apologies. We're not making excuses. We're respected again as a country.
You know, the president, he had some of the same tones and themes in the past with the wall, but he also, yesterday in Nashville, last night in Nashville, took Tucker's entire show. I'm sure Tucker's very angry. But yesterday in Nashville, he was also bringing up some new themes and things he passed. Like, for example, he passed legislation that allows you to fire public unions. You can get fired now. He also talked about where the stance with Democrats. They're pushing back on things that should be non-political, like, for example, MS-13 and animals and where they're digging in. So he's trying out some new themes for 2018.
Telling Republicans not to be complacent, talked about the wall, which we're going to get to in a minute, and talked about North Korea. So that takes us to this Fox News alert.
That's right, straight to it. More signs pointing to a possible summit.
We are just hours away from a crucial meeting between Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and a high-ranking North Korean official right here in New York City. Yeah,
not just any. He was a guy on our blacklist because he's a pretty bad guy. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. with more on what we can expect, Griff. They've met before, right?
That's right. They've met at least 2 times when Mike Pompeo has traveled to Pyongyang. But, don't lose sight on this. The last time a North Korean official of this stature traveled to the U.S., it failed to produce any results, and that was 18 years ago. Today, this official, Kim Yong-chul, touches down at JFK. Kim is the vice chairman of the North's ruling party, but in South Korea, he's notoriously known as the ex-spy chief who's had a bloody hand in attacks on the South. The State Department confirming that Secretary Pompeo is headed to New York to meet with him either today, this afternoon, or tomorrow. And retired General Jack Keane says Kim is carrying a message.
He's trying to get the actual content of the summit back on track, that Kim Jong-un is serious about denuclearization. Whether he truly is or not remains to be seen.
Now, note, Kim was at his boss's side, Kim Jong-un, at every meeting with foreign leaders so far. There have been 4 of those. There was little mention, though, of the summit from the president at last night's rally in Nashville, though he made it very clear that his national security advisor had better get ready.
Great John Bolton. They think he's so nasty and so tough that I have to hold him back, okay? It's pretty great. And he's doing a great job. You better get some rest because we have some pretty good negotiations coming up.
One other interesting development, guys. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is traveling to North Korea as we speak for talks. Unknown what Russia is offering, but another sign that this summit is going to take place. We'll see what we get out, if only a readout from the meeting in the next 24 hours from Secretary Pompeo and Kim Yong-chul. Guys.
Okay. And Japan said, we want to meet before you have that summit. So isn't that on the books now? They're going to meet on June 7th. Prime Minister Abe and President Trump. All right. Thank you, Griff.
And Trump saying, rest up, John Bolton. And he makes it almost look like I got to keep my war dogs on a leash, and I'm the one holding them back.
But they do hate John Bolton.
They really do.
The NK News does report today that the U.S., this is the quote, the difference in position between North Korea and the U.S. on the denuclearization issue remains huge. But there still might not be impossible to find a middle ground. So we've been hearing, we all agree, but over in the region, they are not ready to denuclearize.
Yeah. Different audiences, different language, totally different perspectives on, do you keep your peaceful nuclear material, which is always code for we keep our program going a little bit? Do you get rid of it all? Where does it go? Who watches it? Who inspects it? Those are all details that really, really matter on 2 countries with a lot at stake.
It's great that for the first time in 20 years, this is the most senior North Korean official that has come here for the first time in 20 years. So it's great, but Newt Gingrich reminds all of us you can't trust them. This is the guy, like you said, was responsible for that cyber attack on Sony Pictures Entertainment, and he also sank a South Korean warship, killing 46 sailors. Listen to Newt Gingrich.
The North Koreans for years lied to everybody, got a deal, took the money, and then broke their word. Now they're up against the president who's saying, look, we're going to keep all the sanctions on until we can verify that you're doing the things that need to be done. And they've been so tough, frankly, the South Koreans are begging the North Koreans to cut a deal. This could take years to finish up. It's not going to be a magic moment.
But we'll see if we lay the groundwork. For example, if there's no more rocket testing, no more nuclear testing, no more missiles over Guam or over Japan, that would show progress in the area. You just cannot show weakness.
No more cooperation with Iran on selling of nuclear material and nuclear information. I mean, they've been a big part of the proliferation of that kind of weapons, so a lot to think about.
And they have a huge cyber unit that they're building up, very sophisticated. They're growing, they're training the next generation to be the cyber experts and to attack. So if any of that stuff, those antics are going on, this whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, can't beat their people, but they can hack.
Yeah.
Right. Here domestically, the president was in Nashville last night. He was there for a big rally pushing for Senate candidate Marsha Blackburn. She's a congressman now, and she wants to be a senator. It's a very tight race. So he was there on stage talking about a myriad of issues, including the wall. Listen.
In the end, Mexico's going to pay for the wall. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. All right? I don't want to cause any problem. But in the end, Mexico's paying for the wall. They make all of this money, and they do absolutely nothing to stop people from going through Mexico, from Honduras and all these other countries, the caravan, all of this stuff. They do nothing to help us.
And that's the problem. It's the OTMs, other than Mexicans coming through. Mexico's saying as long as you get through, as long as you don't stay, you can keep going. And the caravan brought that out. But in terms of the wall being built, I don't know if you've heard, but Mexico not on the same page.
No, they don't really want to pay for it. The president came out last night, once again on Twitter, slamming the president, saying, President at Real Donald Trump, no, Mexico will never pay for a wall. Not now, not ever. Sincerely, Mexico. In parentheses, all of us. You know, it's interesting, though, on this side of the border, the wall has become the center of the resistance. I mean, think about what he was willing to give on DACA. It has been the place where Democrats say, we will give you nothing for your wall. I can't think of an issue they hate more than the wall, and he's doubling down on it because supporters say, we elected you to do that, we want you to do that. It is a physical barrier, but it's also a symbol of a very different perspective.
You know what, Pete, and I think you guys know this, this is the read my lips. Remember George Bush cut a deal. He said, I'm not going to raise your taxes, read my lips. And they said, well, if you want to get this funding, if you just raise taxes, let's just do something bipartisan. Bush 41 says, let's do it. And they hung it around his neck and he lost an election. So if they don't build the wall, maybe they can hang that around Donald Trump.
We're going to try.
Even if security pays a price.
We asked all of y'all to weigh in on this, and Mark wrote us and said, I don't care who pays for it, just get it built.
And another Twitter user writes, soon as Congress passes a bill for the wall, Trump is going to cancel NAFTA and renegotiate the $100 billion per year America loses to Mexico, which would result in Mexico paying for the wall.
Clint says this, if it is really Clint, thank you again for doubling down on building the wall. A country without borders is no country at all. Keep in mind this, Kevin McCarthy just told me that they're moving through another immigration bill quickly. If they can get the Freedom Caucus to agree to DACA, they have chain migration and the lottery in it that'll pass the House and put it to the Senate. Well, they'll give it another shot this summer. So that would be something very interesting because we were told Congress was going to do anything.
It would be.
All right, he was there, as we mentioned, for Marsha Blackburn down in Nashville last night. She's going to join us on the show in just a little while, about 5 more minutes. But first, we're going to hand it over to Jillian, who has some more headlines for us.
That's right, and we may never know if it's really Clint.
Well, we never know.
We may never know.
It's really Clint, write us again.
It's a big mystery. Let's get you caught up on what you need to know with this Fox News alert. Right now, thousands of people in North Carolina being told to get out as a dam is expected to fail at any moment.
Extreme flooding. Downtown Old Fort, North Carolina.
Flash flooding from historic rain causing water to spill over the walls of the Lake Tahoma Dam. And sad news out of Ellicott City, Maryland, where the body of missing guardsman Edison Herman has been found. He was swept away while trying to help rescue a woman in historic flooding there. Students returning to an Indiana middle school today after a heroic teacher stopped a gunman. Kids will be welcomed back to Noblesville West Middle School with sidewalk notes of hope and encouragement, reading, quote, "Overflow this place with love, and you can do this." The teacher, Jason Seaman, honored for tackling the gunman and taking 3 bullets last week after another student was shot. The unidentified student appearing in court yesterday. Prosecutors have not filed charges yet. An update coming today from a top commander in our nation's longest running war. General John Nicholson is expected to highlight the president's strategy to end the Afghanistan war. He's also likely to speak on recent success against the Taliban through increased airstrikes. Lieutenant General Austin Scott Miller will soon take over as U.S. commander in Afghanistan. Hours after ABC canceled her show over a racist tweet, Roseanne Barr is back on Twitter apologizing, writing, quote, "Guys, I did something unforgivable, so do not defend me. It was 2 in the morning and I was ambient tweeting. It was Memorial Day too. I went too far and do not want it defended. It was egregious, indefensible. I made a mistake. I wish I hadn't, but don't defend it, please. Thank you." The comedian slammed for a joke aimed at former Obama aide Valerie Jarrett. The conservative charged sitcom reboot had seen record ratings prior to that. Let's look at your headlines. Send it to you.
Thanks, Jay.
So yesterday, everything went crazy. This top-rated show was canceled almost immediately right after when her apology didn't go over and the outrage was still prevalent. Valerie Jarrett, who was actually the subject, the target of Rosie's Roseanne's tweets, came out. She said she got a personal apology from Bob Iger, who's president of ABC, and Rosie reached out to her. Roseanne reached out to her and accepted it. But I was just a little surprised that Valerie Jarrett said it starts at the top, indicating maybe the president is responsible for the tone when her tone has been off since the day.
I don't think it's fair for her to blame the president. These are 2 separate issues. But what she said was appalling. It was offensive. You can forgive her as a person of faith. I do forgive her because she asked for forgiveness. She clearly is upset about it and realizes she was wrong to do that and says it was the ambient talking. But I think ABC did the right thing. They can't continue to allow her on air because they can't stand for this. We're all individuals. We're God's children, and it was egregious.
You should not defend her comments. They're indefensible. They were wrong. But watching last night the sanctimonious elite Hollywood folks descend reinforces what a double standard world we live in. I mean, ABC showed a lot of courage bringing that show back in the first place. Then they ran away. Folks on the left have said far worse about President Trump.
You can't defend.
You can't defend it. You shouldn't defend it.
Like that,
but the double standard is clear and it is stark. They've said Trump should die, things like that. Again, not to defend her, but man, is that double standard.
I thought about last night. Is she picking up the phone? Is she calling all of her staff members and saying, "Y'all were so excited when the show came back, putting food on your table, sending your kids to college, and I made a stupid comment, and now it changes everyone's life."
No doubt she regrets it.
She's going to be on the Joe Rogan podcast on Friday to talk about it. Meanwhile, at 13 minutes after the hour, her husband was deported from the U.S. for being an illegal immigrant, but she is not mad at the president.
Our laws come first. Our laws are just broken and need to be fixed. But I can't be mad at Trump for doing his job.
Drop the box. You bet the liberal media wasn't expecting that answer.
And forget, take me out to the ball game. This World War II veteran just stole the show during the 7th inning stretch.
She loves your state. She loves your country. She's going to win. Marsha Blackburn.
President Trump holding a fiery campaign-style rally to drum up support for our next guest.
That is Tennessee Senate candidate Congressman Marsha Blackburn. She joins us now. Congressman, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. You were there on stage. I'm sure you're still feeling on a high. What was the event like last night?
Oh, the event was so exciting. We have so many Tennesseans that packed that arena, even in bad weather, to come and hear the president and to support him. And we were delighted, so delighted to have them there to support our campaign also.
You made a comment, something to the effect of you want to take Nashville values to Washington, D.C. What do you mean by that?
That's right. Take Tennessee values all the way to Washington. That's what I've done throughout my career, and that's what Tennesseans want to see. They love their country. They want to get government off their back, out of their pocketbook. They value what I call the Big Five: faith, family, freedom, hope, and opportunity. And they want to have elected representatives that also value those standings and principles. They really believe in the American dream. And Ainsley, I've got to tell you, people are so excited with the results of the agenda that President Trump has pushed forward, with economic growth, wages that are going up, more job opportunities, feeling that our nation is more secure, which is an enormous issue with moms and with women. Just knowing that we have a president who is going to fight against sex trafficking and gangs and securing our border and keeping this nation safe.
Congressman, critics have said, hey, if the president is going to Tennessee, a state he won overwhelmingly in the election, traditionally has leaned Republican, that's signs of trouble. What do you say to that criticism?
I say the president is coming where people really appreciate him. He is very popular in Tennessee, and I was so pleased that last night he talked some about national security, because Fort Campbell is right there outside of Nashville. The 101st Airborne has recently deployed. We had some of those families with us last night, and people loved hearing him build out a little bit more about those things. And what a great place to do it. Someplace that you have tremendous support. He carried the state, and people are saying we want to be certain that we hold the House and the Senate so the president can continue to push forward this agenda.
If your constituents are watching, why should they vote for you?
Oh, they should vote for me because I am somebody that is going to take their values to Washington. I am somebody who is going to work every day to make the Senate majority act like a majority, to get things done that they voted to see done. More conservative federal judges, building that wall on the southern border, making certain that our nation is secure. More tax cuts,
we've got to leave it right there. That's a good sell.
Thank you so much.
Crazy, right? Some quick headlines now. At least 11 passengers are hurt when a spark gets everyone panicked when they have a packed plane. Dozens jump out of it, emergency exits, before the plane took off for the Indonesian capital. I would not get back on that plane. No explosives were found. 2 men were arrested. We'll try to pronounce their names later. And a car spins out of control into a gas station pump and erupting into flames. You want to see?
Somebody in the car! Somebody in the car! I think somebody in the car. It's gonna catch a fire in a second.
A Florida mother swerving to avoid a truck with her daughter in the back seat. Nobody was hurt. Somebody else not hurt? Pete Hegseth?
Not yet. Thanks, Brian. Well, the mainstream media loves to use the word collusion when it suits them and their narrative. Watch.
We'll break down the president's latest lies about the Republican-authorized, Republican-led investigation into Russian collusion.
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 Collusion. We had a 15-minute montage of collusion that we just cut down for you, but there's still no proof. So is the media on a collusion course of its own? Here to weigh in, Fox News contributor and senior editor of The Federalist, Molly Hemingway. Molly, thanks for being here this morning. If we had evidence of actual collusion, based on all the leaks and information we've seen, wouldn't we know about it already?
Yeah, it's been really 2 years of hearing about treasonous collusion between Russia and Trump. And we've had so much happening investigation-wise, multiple congressional investigations, a special counsel that came after a longer, FBI investigation, and every media outlet in the country really focused on this. And so we have had so much information about it. We have no evidence of any treasonous collusion with Russia to steal the election that Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. And that's interesting because we've had so much information about this overall story. At the same time, we have learned a lot about other things that are problematic.
Yeah.
If you do have a problem with a campaign working with foreign entities to get dirt on their opposing candidate, we have Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee secretly funding and commissioning this foreign spies report that was used, weaponized by the U.S. government and used to secure wiretaps. And now we learned so much more about how that report was used by the government. Human informants were put onto the campaign, put onto sources who are in the campaign. We have secret subpoenas called national security letters and so much more. So if you're concerned about foreign meddling, we have an example of it with this secret operation done, secretly funded and secretly commissioned by Hillary Clinton.
If you were looking for collusion, that's where you could find it. Another place you might find it is there's this Inspector General report coming out soon, we believe, from Michael Horowitz, that's going to look into the handling of the investigation of Hillary Clinton's server. Now, could there not be evidence that there was some collusion between investigators and the campaign to maybe look the other way when she broke some laws?
I don't know if that would quite qualify as collusion, but definitely we have so much evidence of major problems with how the FBI handled that, where they, it seems, worked very hard to downplay evidence of criminal conduct. And we have seen so many people at the FBI be fired, quickly leave their jobs under threat of firing, or be reassigned, who were involved in that investigation, and as it happens, also the Trump campaign investigation. So I think we're very anxious to see what's in that report. But what we already got from that report, which was just about one of Andrew McCabe's leaks to the media and how he lied about it, when we know, in fact, there were quite a few more. I'm very interested to see what we learn in the whole report.
Yeah, no, you raise a good point. I mean, one man's collusion could be coordination, could be looking the other way. No matter how you spin it, it looks like preferential treatment, which is unfortunate for all of us. We'll see what the report has. Molly Hemingway, thanks for breaking that down for us this morning. Appreciate it. All right, well, her husband was deported from the U.S. for being an illegal immigrant. But she's not mad. Watch.
Our laws come first. Our laws are just broken and need to be fixed. But I can't be mad at Trump for doing his job.
You bet the liberal media was not expecting that answer. And President Trump firing up the Nashville crowd, talking immigration, the wall, and a whole lot more. What do voters think about his speech? The brand new dials you'll only see right here on Fox and Friends. Stick around.
To find my way back to
Country music star Trace Atkins and President Trump firing up the crowd in Nashville last night. So what were the president's top moments, and what do the voters think?
Here with what the dials had to say, president and partner with Maslansky and Partners, Lee Carter. Lee, good morning.
Great to be here.
Great to have you.
All right, so overall the speech, you broke it down into some various components.
I did. And you know what, overall last night, this wasn't his best night. I think he lost independence a little bit, but let's take a look at a couple of the moments.
So he gave a new nickname to Nancy Pelosi and talked about the opponent of Martha Blackburn, saying he's a tool of Schumer. Listen.
To continue this incredible progress, to keep on winning, you have to vote Republican in November. You see what's happening with the Democrats. So Marsh's very liberal Democrat opponent, Phil Bredesen. I never heard of this guy. Who is he? He's a tool of Chuck Schumer and, of course, the MS-13 lover, Nancy Pelosi.
So the comedic...
That got up, though, on Lover.
Sure. So the comedic timing there worked with his base. The Republicans gave it a B, Independents a D, Democrats gave it an F. Now, here's the problem. When he said, I never heard of this guy, that was not a very good moment for him, because this guy's very, very popular in Tennessee. He's somewhat of a conservative Democrat. This president is one that has said that he is going to compromise, he's going to make deals, and he's just going against this guy. I don't think he framed this opponent in the right way, because this opponent isn't necessarily representative of Schumer. That's not what people think of him in that home state. So I just don't think that this was a good move by the president.
Yeah, one thing he could say is this. I talk a lot of moderates, so-called moderates in the House and Senate, and they're nice, but they never vote with anyone except Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
That would have been better.
It's a great point.
Thank you.
The president then was talking about our national security and said we have a new sheriff in town. Listen.
We're not going to be a stupid country anymore. We've stopped it. We're not going to be. And you can say what you want, but I think border security and security general is a great issue for the Republican Party. I think it's a great issue, not a bad issue.
The independent number is an important one there.
That is what we're really going to be tracking right now going into the midterms, and it didn't do very well for them. You see the Republicans pretty well gave it an A-. Independents just gave it a C. Democrats gave it an F. The thing is, independents and Democrats really focused on the point that he said, a stupid country. People said we were never a stupid country. We might have made stupid decisions. We might have been stupid agreements, but we were not necessarily a stupid agreement. What the Republicans are focused on is his strong security, strong border wall, and that's what people want to hear. But he's really got to keep those independents in check as we go into the midterms.
All right, then he talked about making America great again. Listen to this.
We will never give in. We will never give up. And we will never stop fighting for our country. We will make America strong again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again.
And that is the president that was elected. Republicans, you saw off the chart, you could barely see that red line. They gave it an A+. Independents gave it a B. Democrats gave it a C, which says to me that the president still has some appeal. Although when he's rough around the edges and not specific enough about his policies, people are sort of waiting to hear more. I think people are also really lost in all the details right now. There's so much going on. It's hard to keep up. And so anything can happen between now and then.
But he ran through them for a while. I mean, the speech went for a while because he did do a lot over the last 3 weeks in particular. So there was a lot of new stuff in there, and there was a lot of the.
When you poll people, I'm just curious about the Mueller investigation. There's so many players involved. Are they confused? Are most people confused about?
People are very confused, but people are lining up pretty much on their ideology. What you believe is what you believe. So if you support the president, you support him in this case. If you hate him, you think that Mueller's going to find something on him.
Right.
And independents are saying, I just want to see evidence of something. I don't know who to believe. And that's a really tough position to be in.
Mueller's popularity is dropping, and the president's offense seems to be effective.
It does so far, but it's going to be really interesting to see because we're seeing these fluctuations week by week. It's really fascinating.
Jillian, you know what it means when she's on the curvy couch?
What?
We're getting closer and closer to the election.
I know.
That's right.
And I saw you this morning. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
All right, let's get you caught up on some of the headlines that we're following right now, starting with this. The woman seen in this emotional video saying goodbye to her deported husband is now standing with President Trump.
Our laws come first. Our laws are just broken and need to be fixed. But I can't be mad at Trump for doing his job because that is his job to protect us as U.S. citizens from criminals. The only thing is my husband was not a criminal.
Cindy Garcia's husband, Jorge, deported after being brought to the U.S. illegally as a kid. While she says the law needs to be fixed, she agrees criminals need to be sent back to their countries. Bernie Sanders might be eyeing another run for the White House. That's at least according to his inner circle.
Will voters get another chance to vote for Bernie Sanders in 2020?
Well, voters in Vermont certainly will, coming up in November. Nationally, you know, he is considering another run for the presidency.
Well, that's his 2016 campaign manager dropping major hints. Sanders is seeking a third term as Vermont's senator. It might be David Copperfield's finest escape yet. The magician off the hook for an injury suffered by a participant in his show in Las Vegas in 2013. A jury finding him not guilty in the civil suit filed by a tourist who was hurt while volunteering for an illusion. The British man said he fell during the disappearance act. Copperfield did, however, have to reveal the secret behind the trick in court. And this is great. A 99-year-old World War II veteran giving some baseball fans the treat of a lifetime.
God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Don't you just love him? That's Raymond Moore at a minor league game in Pennsylvania for the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. The former radio operator landed in Normandy one day after the military invasion began. Isn't that great?
So cute.
I know.
He is
Standing
so
ovation
cute.
for him.
Wow.
Cherish them always.
And that'll be Pete because Pete sang in the choir. That'll be you at 99 and served the military.
And veteran.
Right. Janice can sing.
Yes, occasionally, especially in the shower. Look at all my friends that came today. Hi,
What?
where are you from?
Louisville, Kentucky.
And what's your name?
Eric DeYoung.
Eric, and where are you guys from?
We're from Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
What's the last name of the family?
Emore.
I love it. And where are you from, young lady?
Ohio.
And what's your name, honey?
Mia.
Do you like being on TV?
Yes.
excellent answers, Mia. Let's take a look at this. We have video out of just outside of Scottsdale, Arizona. This is a dust devil. Mia, isn't that cool?
Yes.
I mean, really, it is really cool. It's a whirlwind over land, and no one was hurt. Look at that. Is that amazing? Oh my gosh, let's take a look at the rest of your weather. I love you, Mia. You come every day here on Fox and Friends. Oh, you're so cute. Okay, here's the forecast today, Mia. 70 here in New York City. It's going to be rainy across the Ohio Valley, parts of Florida. Very hot and sunny across the south. Okay, thanks for coming. Do you want to say hi to anybody at home?
Bobby.
Okay, lovely. Do you guys like being on TV?
Yeah.
Okay, good answer. All right, back inside.
Thank you, Janice. They're so cute.
Good.
All right, tensions simmering in the Middle East after days of airstrikes between Israel and Hamas. We are live on the ground. Next.
Right. Wow, look at that video. And Starbucks back open this morning after closing thousands of stores for unconscious racial bias training. A new op-ed says this proves liberalism has jumped the shark. Remember Fonzie on the water skis? The author will join us live.
Is that what it's from?
Yeah, that was fun.
Didn't know that.
But you gotta keep your head up, oh, and you can let your head down, and keep your head up.
All right, quick headlines now. President Trump expected to sign a new bill into law today, giving terminally ill patients access to potentially life-saving drugs. This is awesome. The right to try, it's called. And the bill gives people access to treatments and medicine not yet approved by the FDA, but just might be able to save their lives. Plans will be unveiled today for a new section of the 9/11 Memorial in New York City. The piece will honor rescue and recovery workers, including those suffering from or have died from exposure to World Trade Center toxins. It was created by 9/11 health advocates, victims' family members, and first responders. 44 minutes after the hour.
And we are on to a Fox News alert. Tensions easing a bit on the Gaza Strip following days of airstrikes.
Israeli fighter jets striking dozens of militant targets overnight after Hamas-backed forces launched their heaviest attack in 4 years.
Connor Palace live near the Israel-Gaza border with details on the apparent ceasefire. Oh, do we believe it, Connor?
That's what we're waiting to find out if this holds. When we woke up this morning, pretty much everyone in the region thought Israelis and Palestinians could be moving towards a wider conflict here over the situation in Gaza. More than 100 rockets were fired in about 24 hours from Gaza into southern Israel, and the Israeli military had been striking Hamas positions in Gaza in the last 24 hours. You can see here some of the damage that's been done. The rockets weren't particularly big across the region, but the barrage of rockets is what really scared people here. It kept people up throughout the night running to bomb shelters and alarms going off across all of Israel. And that's really what had people scared, was the number of rockets were fired. Now, in the last 6 or 7 or so hours, Hamas has said that there is a ceasefire in place. The Israelis aren't calling it a ceasefire. They're calling it a calm, and they're saying that the calm will be met with more calm. So right now, it does appear since about 5 a.m. that the rockets have stopped. There is some type of ceasefire, or at least an agreement in place where there will be no more rockets in the near term. But guys, we have seen tensions rising here, not only in Gaza, but between Israelis and Palestinians since December, since that President Trump decision to move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. And then we've had these protests along the Israeli-Gaza security fence. There is concern that this tension is building, that there could be a wider conflict. But at least right now, the rockets have stopped, and it doesn't appear that it's going to start in the next 24 hours. But there are more protests expected along the Israeli security fence on June 5th, next Tuesday, and that could set things off here again. That's what we're waiting to see, is what happens over the next couple of days. Back to you.
All right.
Thank you.
And where do they get their funding? Iran. What's happening on the northern border with Israel? Iran. What they're doing with Syria. What's happening with Hezbollah in Lebanon? Iran finances Hezbollah.
And we've given Iran money.
And down pallets of cash. And down south there in Gaza, it's also the Muslim Brotherhood. And if you live down, I've been down there, southern Israel, near Stay Road. They face threats from the air, from these missiles that are constantly raining down, but also the tunnels that were Hamas Islamic terrorists are seeking to kill civilians any way they can. We always have to be careful with languages. It's Hamas, and it's terrorism is really what it is. And you got to call it by its name. And it's not always protests. There's a lot of provocation at that border where Hamas is pushing innocents to the front and saying, create a confrontation that makes Israel look bad. So you always have to be careful on the reports from there.
That's right.
All right. Meanwhile, 13 minutes before the top of the hour.
All right. Starbucks back open this morning after closing thousands of stores for unconscious racial bias training. Our next guest says this shows that liberalism has jumped the shark.
But first, let's check in with Bill Hemmer to find out what's coming up on his show. Hey, Bill.
I'm going to go to the White House with Kim Kardashian today. And I'm gonna...
Oh, really? Who do you know in jail that needs to get out?
I don't know. I'll find someone. Good morning. Big rally in Tennessee. A lot to go over from Nashville last night. Wow. This could be a pivotal day in the North Korean front. We will tell you why. And there are new revelations on the Mueller matter from Trey Gowdy, and we will put those points to Alan Dershowitz this morning. Also, Roseanne tweeting overnight what she has to say the day after. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. Come join Sandra and me for America's Newsroom. We'll see you at the top of the hour.
The move in response to last month's incident in Philadelphia where 2 black men were arrested inside a store while waiting for a friend.
Right. That also prompted Starbucks to announce that anyone could use its restrooms without making a purchase for a $9 latte. But the coffee chain quickly backpedaled after concerned store owners were concerned that the whole place would turn into a homeless shelter.
In a new op-ed, our next guest suggests that Starbucks and American liberalism, they have both jumped the shark.
My turn to and introduce Dan Henniger. He's the deputy editor of the Wall Street Journal, editorial page, and a Fox News contributor. You can watch him most of the time on your Sunday show. Dan, what do you mean jump the shark? Do you think they're trying to be liberal, they're trying to be politically correct, and they find themselves in a game of Twister?
Exactly right, Brian. I mean, Starbucks discovered something important about 30 years ago, which is that liberalism was no longer just about politics. It had become a lifestyle, liberal lifestyle. And so that meant that you just didn't drink black coffee. Sourced coffee, you were fighting climate change. So going into Starbucks was kind of a political bonding experience. Then this Philadelphia incident comes along and they simply go nuts because offended progressive ideology. And Howard Schultz immediately announces they're going to close all of their stores. That was yesterday afternoon.
$16 million to the company.
Yeah, and send 175,000 employees to unconscious anti-bias training, which sounds a lot like the old Chinese re-education camps. I always thought baristas are about the most sensitive workers in America, but apparently they need anti-bias training. And liberalism, now that it's moved over into progressivism, I think is jumping the shark because you cannot satisfy them. You will always be wrong trying to appease progressives.
Were they worried about losing customers? Is that why they went to this extreme?
Well, that is an excellent question because they are losing customers. Starbucks sales have been slowing. They need to do something to attract people in the afternoons. I really have my doubts whether this kind of hyper-progressivism that Starbucks is displaying right now is going to attract more customers. I think it's a risky move by them.
This whole training, what comes out of it? Now you have people there who want to create, maybe go in there to create a scene because Starbucks is vulnerable to any type of outrage.
Yeah, how did Starbucks involve itself at this level in progressive politics?
Remember race? They wanted to talk about race and we're right on your cup.
Yeah, race cover. But here's the thing. The progressives now, inevitably, their politics seems to be leading to chaos. Look at what happened to America's campuses in a state of chaos. Look at the NFL in the past season because the national anthem is a protest with chaos all season. Now you've got Starbucks in kind of a chaotic situation trying to accommodate both the progressives and their own customers. It's very unpopular. I think the chaos is the reason, political chaos is the reason a lot of people voted for Donald Trump. And now Howard Schultz has made this commitment to push Starbucks to the left.
Do you think he wants to run for president?
I think he absolutely wants to run for president, Brian. That was discussed last September. If you listen to the interviews Howard Schultz has been given lately, he's talking about the moral order.
He did 45 minutes, I think, on CNN yesterday.
Yeah, he is, I think, clearly trying to prepare to run for president in 2020. But why use his own company as a platform for that? Why force 175,000 employees to be participant in Howard Schultz's presidential ambitions?
Would he be more like a Bernie Sanders or more like a Hillary Clinton?
I think he'd be somewhere in between. You cannot be Hillary Clinton in the Democratic Party anymore. You've got to be a card-carrying progressive. And I think Howard Schultz is perfectly willing to do that, but comes with the aura of a professional businessman, a successful entrepreneur, guy who knows how to get things done. Question is what's happening to Starbucks. Are they really getting things done? As you suggested earlier, Brian, a lot of people say this new policy of opening your restrooms to anybody who wants to come in is going to turn them into homeless parlors.
And
it probably will.
And don't call the police.
And don't call the police.
All right, Dan, thanks so much. Appreciate it. You did not go to, but we were able to comment on the unconscious racial bias that Starbucks claims we all have.
Yeah, we reached out to Starbucks for a statement, and they didn't have a comment for us.
Well, it was a formal training program that came in with professionals to kind of explain to the baristas why they have unconscious bias.
Dan, thanks. Pick up the Wall Street Journal. Dan gets a nickel for every copy.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, more Fox and Friends.